It was an unseasonably cold morning when the overnight express from London pulled into Waverley Station, Edinburgh, on the 8th of May 1920. The train that day included a carriage chartered by the National Children Adoption Association, NCAA, full of very young children needing homes. While London had no foster homes for these unwanted children, Edinburgh was ready to welcome them with open arms. The Scotsman, Scotland's newspaper of record, later declared that 150 offers had been received from Scotland of homes for unwanted babies, one in Leith. The said couple from the northern suburb of Edinburgh were 43-year-old Robert John and 42-year-old Euphemia Melrose Brown. The Browns were devout lower-middle-class Presbyterians who had been married since 1910. Euphemia suffered from a club foot and wore Edwardian-style long dresses to hide her elevated boot. Robert was a journeyman tailor, whose business had been interrupted by the First World War. When he had enlisted in 1916, he was 39 years old, nominally too old to be posted to France as a frontline soldier. Despite this, he was so desperate to do his bit that he told the recruiter he was a year younger, with a convenient smudge over his birth certificate covering his birth date. After just weeks in the frontline trenches, working as a member of the Labour Corps rather than a frontline soldier, Robert developed trench foot and was eventually sent back to Blighty for more concentrated treatment. At 40 years old, he clearly felt it was a young man's war on the front line and therefore took the opportunity to transfer to the Royal Flying Corps as a labourer on observation balloons, then transferring to the Royal Air Force when it was formed on the 1st of April 1918. With the war over, Robert returned to Euphemia, and the couple's attention turned to having a family of their own. When nature deprived them of their greatest wish, fate decreed that Euphemia saw an advertisement to adopt young children from London. So, on this May morning, Robert and Euphemia had travelled across town to Waverley Station, carrying with them the necessary references from the church and a business connection, probably the local bank manager, hoping they would find a child to complete their family. Wrapped up to keep out the chill, and holding each other's hands, the Browns craned their necks in anticipation as the train, and the NCAA carriage with it, came puffing into view. As the children jumped off the carriage and were allocated to their various families, Euphemia heard a baby cry. Before she set eyes on it, she decided, there and then, that she must give this child a home. Handed a swaddle of blankets by a nurse, Euphemia caught sight of the crying baby boy for the first time. She was told his name was Eric, and that he'd been born to a single mother called Dorothy on the 21st of January in the Salvation Army's Mothers' Hospital in Hackney. No reason was given for Dorothy giving up her child, but from that day forth, Euphemia and Robert were determined to give this abandoned, crying boy a loving and secure home. Despite this incredible start to life, this is a story that Eric took to the grave. It was never discussed in his autobiography, nor in any of his talks with friends or speeches. Not even his late wife Lynn or his only son Glenn were aware of it. He spent his whole life as a proud Scot, even though he was actually born in England. He even went as far as to keep a forged birth certificate in his papers to hide the true story of his origins. However, as we shall see, this was far from the only major discrepancy in Eric's approved version of his life. From the Browns' two-storey apartment at 269 Leith Walk, Edinburgh, Robert spent his days working as a tailor in the workshop on the ground floor. Yet it was his adopted father's occupation as a Royal Air Force flight lieutenant which really captured Eric's imagination. Somehow, he says in his autobiography, I felt flying was in my blood.